Bienvenidos. Oh my god, I just started streaming without getting my mic ready. Very embarrassing, very unprofessional. Here's the thing, though. Okay. No, my recording! Alright, that's fine. Okay, alright. Now the mic is working. Bienvenidos. I had to restart my recording because I accidentally ended my recording right when I started it. Really glad that you've joined me if you happen to be here today. What's going on? Chatterino. So, little update. I had to reset my computer today because of some issues I was having. Ended up being the only fix, so I had to do that today, which resulted in like a lot of time taken away from studying, and that kind of sucks. But life goes on, right? Today is a particularly interesting day, I think, in Latin American news, but also in Mexican and American relations, and even, excuse me, I got burp. So, it's interesting for a lot of reasons, right? And one of them is that we, as in the United States, has killed 2 Venezuelan nationals who were, as far as we know, doing nothing wrong, first of all. But second of all, it's completely out of their jurisdiction, right? Like, the United States doesn't have the right to police off the coast of Venezuela. And so this has caused quite a panic among, reasonably, among different Latin American nations, specifically like Puerto Rico, who is seeing like a mass movement of troops to their island. Mexico is pretty crazy right now. We're about to watch one of these people. This is the second Mexican politician that has come to the United States and has essentially asked Trump to invade Mexico because he believes, or he says he believes, that the sitting president is a communist and aligned with the narco trafficking networks. Yeah, it's important to keep in mind that these guys live in a complete fantasy. The Mexican president is overwhelmingly popular because of her successes. In fact, we can actually talk about some today because she had her report yesterday that we talked about a little bit. But especially today, she, I don't know, they're expanding on it. They're talking more about it. But these like state-run industry, like businesses, essentially, that take resources that are kind of unique to Mexico and turning them into a commodity that all Mexico can benefit from the sale of. It's like nationalization, right? It's expropriation, because presumably the land, well, in this case, the state is buying it from farmers, like cocoa beans, coffee beans, and then processing it. So I think it's a really great way of simulating the economy, right? And then also it shows that it can be done. It can be done in other ways, in other places, in other parts of the economy, in other industry, right? So we're gonna watch these guys got into it in the Mexican Senate. Is the guy in the green shirt dead? He did not expect to be shoved so easily. And he just, like, died. We just never saw him again. I don't know how clear it was to everyone, but it looked to me like he grabbed the Morena guy's wrist.
Donald Trump slapped new tariffs on U.S. trade.
One moment, please. Jesus, I'm speaking, man. It looks to me like the guy. What is his name? Alejandro Morena. Was grabbing the Morena guy, which is kind of confusing. His wrist, right? The Senate president's wrist. And he pushed him back and said, "Do not touch me." So I think the push was a reaction to being touched and restrained initially. And so it's kind of tough to say that the push really instigated anything. It kind of seems to me as though Alejandro violated someone else's like body bubble, right? Like we're not supposed to be touched. We're not supposed to touch other people without permission. And so I think when Alejandro grabbed the guy's wrist,
Donald Trump slapped new tariffs on U.S. trade partners, but did
Gerardo Fernandez Noreña and I think he grabbed Noreña's hand or arm or wrist, and so Noreña reacted by pushing him, and I think that it's kind of clear. So I really wonder what's gonna come of this. To me, Alejandro comes off as unhinged, frankly, like shoving and attacking and getting really upset that he got shoved after he grabbed a guy. Like to me, it strikes me as somebody that doesn't believe that rules and norms apply to them, and that they're like above those kinds of things. My dog was losing his shit about someone outside. So he got. I don't know, man. It's one of those things. It's like, okay, now you look kind of like a psycho. Because the other guy, the green shirt guy, was like trying to step in front of him, and then he just got shoved and like obliterated. He just doesn't exist anymore. And then the other guy kind of seemed like an old man. Almost. Like, what are you doing? Like, is he on steroids? What's his problem? Why is he so angry? I don't think he needs to be that angry. So, the thing is that he's not the only one who's been doing this, right? And he was doing this stupid ass. What is this? Is this just an ad? Alright, I guess we're gonna watch this fucking ad. Um. Oh, está en español. ¿Qué cosa? ¿Sabes? Cuando instalé Windows otra vez, se instaló, no estoy seguro. Se instaló la forma de Windows mexicana, pienso, porque cuando voy al tiempo, el, con el tiempo está escrito como está en México. ¿Ves aquí? No sé si lo ves. Oh, no lo puedes ver porque está el video. Está la cámara. The camera's in the way, but I think that I'm running Mexican Windows by mistake after resetting my computer, which is fine. It's not really a problem for me, but I don't know if that's.
Mi mamá me enseñó a planchar desde que tenía 16 años, así que hay que trabajar juntos y darle para adelante, alistándome para unas reuniones que tengo mañana aquí en Washington. Buenas noches.
I don't even know that thing was on. This guy seems kind of like. Oh my god, why does he look like this? All right, hold on a second. Okay, so in the last video, he said, since I was 16 years old, or when I was 16 years old, my mom taught me how to iron my clothes, and I do so every night. And so we need to work together to accomplish our goals or something, like, essentially, right? It's like kind of like the gist of what he said. And the thing about that is that it doesn't make any fucking sense. What does ironing your shirt yourself have to do with working together with other people? You mean like you were working together with your mom when she taught you how to iron? I don't quite understand. I suspect this man is very stupid. He completely reacted so crazy to being pushed after laying hands on somebody that I just can't. I just can't. All right, let's watch this. Let's watch what he has to say to his detractors.
Amigas y amigos, muy buenas tardes. Aquí en Martes, trabajando con todo para darles fuerza y fortaleza a este trabajo que hemos hecho las y los militantes del PRI en las 32 entidades federativas.
Dude, he looks like he's wearing a mask. Has he had like just like a shit ton of work done?
Compartirles que va caminando a paso firme nuestra Asamblea Nacional, muy bien, muy cuidada, como ustedes saben, todo caminando, todo aterrizado por ese gran trabajo que hicieron las y los priistas en todo el país. Y también decirles, por ahí andan una bola de cínicos y lastres del partido que fueron los que nos llevaron a construir esta mala imagen del partido, queriéndole como siempre hacerle el servicio al gobierno. Y una vez les decimos, jamás van a poner al PRI de rodillas. Nosotros somos un partido opositor, una dirigencia firme que va a combatir al oficialismo para generar mejores condiciones y sobre todo mejor calidad de vida para las familias mexicanas. Aquí vamos con mucho carácter, con mucho trabajo a este proceso importante de culminación de nuestra Asamblea Nacional y el proceso de renovación de nuestra dirigencia nacional. Con todo el apoyo de ustedes somos fuertes, somos sólidos, hay unidad en el partido y jamás vamos a permitir que esta bola de cínicos y sinvergüenzas que siempre han lucrado con el partido se quieran salir con la suya haciéndole el servicio al gobierno. También decirles a todas y a todos ustedes que hay que caminar con mucho ánimo. Hoy el PRI tiene que defender con todo a las y los trabajadores del Poder Judicial. Tenemos que defender, apoyar y respaldar a juezas, a magistradas, a magistrados, a todo el Poder Judicial, a la Suprema Corte, porque hay que dejarle claro al oficialismo que el legislativo y el judicial son un poder y no son empleados del poder. Que el PRI está trabajando en una propuesta alternativa, distinta, clara, para garantizar el respeto al Estado de Derecho y que haya justicia pronta y expedita. Eso es lo que estamos construyendo y por Por eso los convoco a todos ustedes a seguir trabajando en la fortaleza y en la unidad del PRI, porque estos siempre siguen en sus campañas mediáticas, en calumniar, en difamar. ¿Por qué? Porque es lo único que les queda. Hay que ir firmes y hacia adelante. Vamos muy bien, vamos caminando. ¿Por qué? Porque ya no saben qué declarar. Sacan lo mismo todos los días, pero eso nos hace fuerte. Eso le deja claro al priismo.
Okay, guys, I have to just tell you what I found out. This is fucking just hilarious, actually. This man 3 years ago was investigated for using like public money or campaign money. It's I'm not sure, but he like illegal. He used like money that he wasn't allowed to use for Botox. So yes, he's into Medispa. He's into all that stuff. It sounds like, and it's pretty funny. He's also orange, like Republicans in the United States are. Pretty interesting.
Estos lo único que quieren es dividir al PRI y poner el PRI al servicio del gobierno. No se los vamos a permitir y por eso les agradezco siempre su respaldo, su apoyo, su cariño y mucho ánimo, compañeros. Tuvimos más de 6.6 millones de votos en el pasado proceso. Tenemos senadoras, senadores, diputadas, diputados, alcaldes, alcaldesas. Tenemos diputadas y diputados locales. Esa es la fuerza del PRI. Vamos con mucho ánimo. Me da no solo gusto siempre poder compartir con ustedes y cerremos este ciclo importante para impulsar la reforma más profunda de nuestro instituto político y darle certeza y certidumbre a las y los mexicanos con una buena propuesta que es el Partido Revolucionario Institucional. ¡Mucho ánimo! ¡Venga!
Ahorra con la app Fuel Forward. Entre más descuentos acumules,
Se siente bien quedarme con más lana.
más bajo llegarás.
You'll always be the one I want in midnight.
Bueno,
Oye,
Hola, espérate.
oiga, estoy esperando aquí media hora, güey.
sí, a ver los jueces.
¿Qué proceso? ¿Cachetada o sin cachetada?
Un cachetada
A ver, ven
siempre.
por acá. Ven por acá, por acá.
Why did it take me to reality TV? That's really bizarre. Okay. This guy's a freak. I'm trying to learn more about this Noreño guy. I should have done this earlier because it's kind of interesting. It sounds like he's it sounds like he's kind of based. He's the guy who said that, the Mexicans that are protesting the American government are doing so on what used to be Mexican land, and that a lot of Mexicans still consider it Mexican land, and that there's no reason why. Because, so like, the treaty de Guadalupe Hidalgo has like this provision in it that says that like the former Mexican citizens that become American citizens, have to be treated the same way that American citizens are. They're not allowed to be treated as second-class citizens. And so Noreña argues that when Trump has deported Mexicans who have legal status in the United States, that he has violated that clause of the Treaty of Guadalupe Hidalgo, and therefore all that whole treaty is defunct, and thusly the land that was previously given to the United States must expressly be returned to Mexico. And it's kind of a meme, right? Because it's like a joke. No one really is going to do that. But it'd be too much work, frankly, for anyone to want to do that. Unless, like, there really was, like, a massive amount of Mexican people in that area. But there's not quite enough. It would need to be majority, like, a super majority. of Mexican people who were there in this area that he's talking about, for it to even be feasible, for like there to be enough people that want it to happen for it to even like remotely be in the remote possibility. But he's making this argument because there's like this a lot of this use of rhetorical argumentation by right wingers. They expect to be able to like rhetorically argue things that exist out of context, argue things in a vacuum, essentially. And so, right, like ignoring everything else, kind of a thing. And so, it's kind of like a joke, right? I don't know. It's good. It's a funny joke. The thing is that it's like poor people support the Morena party. Not so much the richer people, and so that's definitely something that is, a problem. But I don't know. It seems like it's getting better in that respect. I'm interested to know what it's going to take for there to be a robust, independent media that is capable of reporting on the actions of like worker-led states positively or neutrally at the very least, and then also cover like the United States factually and neutrally, which would present it as a terrible entity, right? So it's we kind of need that balance, because like very little of the media ecosystem like operates in fucking reality. They always want to like, it's basically just like people who live in like a few neighborhoods in New York City, Washington DC, and Los Angeles who like think that they determine and know everything about the country and like know all the kinds of people and all of their needs and know how to fix them. And that's not the case, obviously, but that's kind of the same thing that's happening in Mexico, right? There's like this class of wealthier people who have way more access to the media, who are more college educated and all of this stuff, that don't want there to be welfare for the poor people. They don't want to have to pay more taxes. They want to continue to be corrupt. They want to continue to steal from the government in a lot of instances, right? So this is kind of funny. These goofballs, it just look at this wrinkly ass flag, and it's just like, I don't know, what about this made me it just really tickled me. The American Society of Mexico. So these guys want to be the Mexican equivalent of the Republican Party, which is so funny because it's like I don't know, it's like meaningless. Like the name of the Republican and the Democratic Party are kind of meaningless. They don't mean anything. It's not like Republicans are like, we are trying to convert the government to Republican, and the Democrats are like, no, we're trying to convert it into a democracy. So I don't know quite if their ideology is just going to be the same, or if they actually are like, no, we want a republic, which I don't think Mexico is a republic. I'm not sure. La República de México. Is that right? No, that sounds kind of right. So this is probably like the main meat of what we really should be talking about, and really be concerned with. This crazy guy who we were talking about just now, Alejandro Moreno, he's also going on, went to Trump and asked him to be getting some kind of investigation, take some kind of action into Nicolás Maduro de Venezuela. And considering the United States just illegally like murdered, I guess you can't legally murder somebody, but like illegally murdered two Venezuelans. I think they're testing public reaction to what it would be like to wage like almost like a low scale war in Venezuela, or against like the narco trafficking networks that they call the cartels, in order to to see how if the public is okay with this, like a low scale war with like precision quote unquote, right? As you know, like Seth Harp wrote in his book, right? It's like the JSOC is basically the government's tool of choice, the American government's tool of choice, in order to have military action, like important military action that is covert and precise and cheap and incredibly effective, I guess. And so my suspicion is it'll be something like that, where we will be at war, but it's not like they're going to be deploying a lot of infantry necessarily. I don't really see what the point would be unless they're planning on like a literal invasion and occupation of places like Venezuela and Mexico. But the idea of trying to invade and occupy Venezuela, I mean, with the topography, first of all, would be a nightmare. With just the fact that like that country is incredibly patriotic, would be a nightmare. Like they're so ready; they have been primed for that to happen. Like anyone who supports the government and does not support, you know, the United States, essentially, like those people are basically primed for the United States to invade, and they are, I think, chomping at the bit to kill people for their freedom, for their independence, right? Like that's what they see it as. And the United States historically struggles against ideologically committed opponents. And I mean, it makes sense, right? If you have a reason to fight, you're probably going to fight harder than the guy who's just getting paid to be there. Because the guy who's getting paid to be there doesn't have to be there. If he really hates it, he can just go home. But that is your home. You're fighting over your home. So Trump has declared these additional 8 narco trafficking groups, crime syndicates, organizations, and this is part of what is raising my fears, because the United States president has the authority to take military action without congressional approval on terrorist organizations. These are not, by any definition, terrorist organizations, right? Particularly, what's happening? Particularly, look at him. Why does he look like this? Where are they? Oh. Because like you have to, first of all, you have to like consider what the fuck terrorism even means, and it's like the idea is like, oh, it's someone who's trying to motivate you through terror, right? Some kind of political activist or religious activist or whatever that is like trying to convince a population or a group of individuals to through terror. That's what a terrorist is. Anytime a victimized or oppressed or in a lot of cases occupied people are the victims of violence, they tend to become desensitized to it and have no issues returning that violence. And so a lot of the people that we call terrorist organizations, things like the Taliban, grow out of a direct reaction to American operations in that country, right? Like Afghanistan, when we invaded, one of the things that happened was that poppy production increased drastically. Afghanistan became essentially a narco state, which is what the United States is currently trying to accuse Mexico of being. And during this time period in Afghanistan, I mean, Afghanistan is a majority Muslim country. I know that like everybody knows that, but what that really means is that drugs are not cool for most of the population. And the idea of becoming a narco state was really scary to a lot of people and led to the group that we call the Taliban to come to existence and garner a lot of American support, or of Afghani support, like global support. And now we're in a situation where the Taliban is the de facto government of Afghanistan. Like, a lot of people aren't cooperating with them, which is really bullshit because they just had one of the worst earthquakes like ever in Afghanistan, and they really could use a lot of help. I wish that I had the audience that I could raise money for them, for Afghanistan. I think that, like, you know, Palestine doesn't really need money. They just need the blockade and Israelis to allow food and water and medicine in. But with the Taliban, they're like a direct result of us interfering with this country's regular, you know, existence. And so it's a completely different kind of organization that exists for a completely different kind of reason. These are essentially businesses. It really doesn't make any sense to call them cartels, right? Because cartels mean something. Like, if you just type this in. An association of manufacturers or suppliers with the purpose of maintaining prices at a high or restricting competition. So, the cartels that's not what they do. They're not just like a whole bunch of business people that have agreed that this is the price. Otherwise, they wouldn't be fighting all the time. If they were friendly and could come to an agreements, and I mean they occasionally do, but it wouldn't be. It would just be. It just wouldn't be this. It wouldn't be competing syndicates. It wouldn't be competing in some ways like methodology, right? Like Los Zetas and the Sinaloa are completely different, right? Nueva Generación, I think, is also a different thing. In terms of Nemesiso. Dude, that's such a badass name. Nemesiso? Nemesiso's a badass name. And he's evil. He's like a bad guy. He's the nemesis. Like, talk about determinism. What the fuck?
New crafted flats from Pizza Hut are just $5 each.
Who's talking to me?
Choose from 5 handcrafted recipes you won't want to share.
What's happening? Who's talking?
The new crafted flats.
Where is it?
Each till 5 p.m.
What's happening?
Close, only at Pizza Hut.
Who's talking to me? Okay, it's over. The We'll need to talk about South Harp's book in detail. Oh, I know the most about the Zetas because they're just kind of legendary, Los Zetas, because they were like trained at what is now called Fort Liberty, you know, and so man, they really write a lot about what the cartels are up to, huh? And that was one that I really would like to learn more about and be able to report on better. Let's look at this. Mara Salvarucha. Oh, it's MS-13. What? What's the 13? Where did the 13 come from? I need to see if I can find better Spanish language reporting on this stuff because I feel like I'm missing something. Huh. Oh man. This is so sad. Hi. What's up, bud? This is Meru. Ow! Loves to step on anything that can hurt. He's been having some poop problems lately, so I'm concerned that he might get some poop on me or my desk. Hi. What you doing, buddy? Just need some pets? All my pets are pretty needy. Hope we found something to go look at. So, this is interesting that Melee is like losing a lot of favor. He's not really seemingly able to keep this administration together. The re-election for him is not looking very good. It's weird. It's like kind of obvious to me that this is what was going to happen, but I mean, he it's interesting. Yep. It's really weird. It's I don't know. I don't know why I keep saying it's weird, but it looks like he's they're trying to keep him elected, or he's trying to stay elected, and that's certainly something. He doesn't seem to be able to keep his promises. And so I think he's gonna lose what we would call in the United States oh man, what are they called? They basically can vote either red or blue depending on what the hell's going on, like depending on vibes, right? People who voted for Obama and then voted for Trump. Yeah. I think something that is like kind of I'm becoming really cognizant of is that people really hate like migrants in the United States, and as a result, like like undocumented migrants, it kind of started with them, but as a result, it has like led like to this dehumanization of Latinos. The fact that like just blow up these two guys and it's just like completely fine. Like I don't know how the news in the United States isn't constantly playing that over and over and over and over again. Why Democratic senators aren't calling to impeach Trump and remove him from office for violating international law and bringing the United States to a place where it has to become accountable for breaking international law. Like it's like that would be what would be happening if the United States considered Latino people in Latin in the global South people. If it cared, if it thought of them as people, and frankly, like it doesn't say much that the American government doesn't consider South Americans people from the global South as people, because the American federal government barely considers its own citizens as people. You could all argue that you have to almost earn or be born into being a person in the United States. That otherwise you're born with personless status until you get a bachelor's degree, I think. But while this is all going on in Mexico and in Argentina, we have this guy who was he got successfully convicted of money laundering in the U.S.
New crafted flats from Pizza Hut are just $5 each till 5 p.m. Choose from 5 handcrafted
Oh man, this isn't
recipes you
good.
won't want to share. And you don't have to. The new crafted flats, just $5 each till 5 p.m. and available till close. Only at Pizza Hut.
This Anya's got away with killing the protesters. That's insane. I have not been keeping up with Bolivia. That is insane, dude. That is fucking psychotic. It's it's infuriating. It's infuriating. Like, we do not there's no respect for life. There's no respect for life. In this world that we live in, there's no respect for life. Life has no fucking dignity. Life is sacred, dude. It's in a lot of ways, life is a miracle. The amount of things that have to happen for the first cell to emerge, like, could all be considered miracles, and how unlikely they are. And then the end result, or the results of the cell continuing to experience these phenomenon, right? Because this is not like a directed thing. We can see how physics and chemistry develop the first cells, and how our understanding of how life functions now tells us how the rest of our biomolecules came into existence. And why? Because, we use them for different things in our bodies. And there's people like this lady, Agnes, who, and her supporters, I guess, who don't care about people, man. Or who think that certain groups of people shouldn't be cared about. In some cases, like, there's a lot of racism involved here. Even though she looks like fucking... She is so indigenous looking to me. It's crazy. But she is, like, incredibly racist to indigenous people, which is... Like, hello, the people that are from there, you're gonna come... First of all, you do not look all that Spanish. All of us have indigenous blood in us. Just monster. And the fact that she's getting away with it is incredibly, like, we should really be thinking about that as one of, like, an injustice that has happened in our lifetimes. That's incredible. That's nothing compared to what this guy did. I mean, like, what she did is nothing compared to what this guy did. Or vice versa, is what I'm trying to say. This guy just, he did some money laundering, and then he was involved with, the violence against protesters, which is what he was supposed to be indicted for, charged for. This happened after the Agnes got annulled, so I wonder if he's going to get partially annulled as well. This is incredible. So, Bolsanro, former president of Brazil, tried to do his own equivalent of a January 6th style challenge to the results of the election in Brazil. And his was on January 8th. It's really funny. Do you think he was like, oh shit, and in 2 days he was like, let's do this? Maybe. He tried to do a coup. He basically tried to do January 6th. And rather than, like in our country, just let him get away with it, they're prosecuting him, which is incredible. That's what they should be doing. That's what we should have been doing here. Like, the fact that Donald Trump was just allowed to run for president again was wild. Something that is, like, increasingly becoming clear to me like the more I learn about like medicine and mental health, is that if we were being realistic about people's capabilities, guys like Donald Trump and a lot of our fucking Congress and senators here in the United States, and frankly, probably in a lot of the world, and a lot of the so-called free world, the North, would not be allowed anywhere near public office. You know, they would be put in extended care facilities. They would be like living their last days at home, retired, something. But they wouldn't be allowed to do what they're doing. A lot of these people are like mentally like on decline. They're experiencing and exhibiting signs of dementia. They have like unresolved psychological problems. And it's like we're all like that, right? We all suffer from things. But these are supposed to be the people who take care of us. And they're some of the most diseased people of our society. The whole RFK thing, man, is one of the most mind-blowing things that I've ever experienced in my life. This man has, and it's kind of the same thing as, you know, people like Terrence Howard or Billy Carson, to some extent Barry Weiss, is that they like rely so much on people who are unwell, people who are at a place in their lives emotionally or cognitively or financially or whatever, that they're like in a desperate place that they feel as though they should react very strongly to something that might not need to be reacted to in such a way.
Today, federal officials confirmed ICE officers have arrested at least 475 undocumented immigrants at a Hyundai manufacturing site in Georgia, and more people were detained at the business in New York. Welcome back to Action News Midday.
Now, the move sparked anger and frustration with the New York governor, who is saying she's outraged by people being separated from their families. ABC's Rena Roy has the very latest.
475 people detained by immigration officials at a Hyundai manufacturing site in Elabelle, Georgia, Thursday, just west of Savannah. The ATF Atlanta offices posting these images on social media, saying they were there to assist.
This has been a multi-month criminal investigation where we have developed evidence, conducted interviews, gathered documents,
And so Hyundai is going to be investigated, is going to be shut down. The people who were who were trafficked, their labor was exploited, are going to receive settlements. Because they're in a foreign country that is not of their own, they are going to receive pathways to citizenship. That's what you're going to say, right? That you're going to be prosecuting Hyundai for taking advantage of these people. That's what you're going to say, right?
Presented that evidence to the court in order to obtain a judicial
He sounds really
search
defensive.
warrant.
Department of Homeland Security officials say this was part of an ongoing criminal investigation into allegations of unlawful employment practices and other serious federal crimes. DHS saying it underscores the commitment to protecting jobs for Georgians, ensuring a level playing field for businesses that comply with the law, safeguarding the integrity of our economy, and protecting workers from exploitation.
There are no criminal charges being announced today.
More than 24 people detained are South Korean. The country's foreign ministry voicing, quote, concern and regret over the incident at the plant, which is run by South Korean companies, saying individuals' rights should not be unfairly infringed upon. Meanwhile, in upstate New York on the same day, at least 40 people were detained at a factory that makes specialty nutrition bars.
The workers here, like I said, they're great people. Love every single one of them. We can't do what we do without them.
I won't support any effort to separate families. I think it's appalling. I have said all along, I will help the federal government remove people who are threats, that are violent criminals. That's what the president promised during his election. This is what we are told. Go after the worst of the worst. It's all we heard about. And now you have raids.
And now officials have not provided details on that New York operation, but the local sheriff's office says it was a Department of Homeland Security criminal investigation. Rena Roy, ABC News.
That's crazy. Honestly, the Korean angle is a little bit more of interest to me, just because it's like kind of, I mean, like, does Hyundai regularly do that? Do they regularly traffic people?
ICE agents have been around all over Southern California. This weekend was marked with absolute violence.
I'm tired of you taking our children! I'm tired of you taking our parents!
We are tired, sick and tired of these attacks that are dividing and separating our families.
What the state fears the most is organization. I don't mean an organization, but the concept of organization. People, the working class people, fighting back as a class.
What does the shirt say?
Get the fuck out!
It's important for them to break LA. If they break LA, they can break any community in this country. We are Unión del Barrio. We are
It should kind of be mentioned that I don't think that any other time in history have like any kind of underclass taken this much violence without retaliating. I really don't know like if anyone has ever crunched those numbers, but it seems like the proportionality like of in response from the people that are receiving violence from the state is not what you would expect if you looked at history. You know what I mean? There's a point where people typically just get fed up and just like literally fight back, like actually fight back, and we're not really seeing that. Maybe I need to do a little bit more research into the military people that have been charged with like attacking. I don't know if they're military institutions or what they're installations or what they're doing, but there's been that, so I'm gonna look into that.
Proud member and founding member of the Community Self-Defense Coalition. Because it's such a huge coordinated attack against our communities, I have to assume at least one of you here is here for the wrong reasons. So if there is a pig in the room, first of all, fuck you. Second of all, we're not doing anything illegal. We're on the streets from 5:30 in the morning till past midnight, and it's been 7 days a week ever since these attacks have started. So people are putting it down.
We got a big group today. Whoever group 2 will be, just take Maple straight down to King, then another group San Pedro, and then another group on Central. Those will be the 4. All right, we do have the magnets on the radio, so let's get those real quick, and then vámonos.
Yeah, any vehicle that we see a little suspicious, we'll just turn around and check it out just in case.
We do the patrols, which is helpful in our immediate neighborhoods so that we know if there is or isn't activity. But to have eyes and ears all over, not even the city, but all over Southern California is extremely helpful. Before this started, we had maybe like 200,000 followers at the most. Now it's over 500,000. People send us information all the time. I'm checking, I'm just quickly looking at it now. We're in South Central LA. We're at a high school where I teach. Right now, there's no kids here. It's summer school's over. And so right now, this neighborhood, like many neighborhoods across the country, are thinking and wondering and are anxious about, back to school day. And so we are preparing not only like lesson plans and typical things that teachers have to do, but also preparing for the possibility of attacks against our students. We'll be patrolling around the school on foot and in our cars. And in case we do see any type of activity, we will have a plan. I said Olvera Street.
I'm gonna go talk to whoever's organizing whatever's happening. How are you? Good to see you, brother.
Good to see you too, man.
Somebody called and said that they thought they saw
No,
something.
we didn't. So we got a false report. A security officer was spreading a false rumor that ICE was going to be here.
Do you all have our number just in case?
Absolutely.
¿Quieres cereal?
Este?
Okay. I would say being a father probably has made me a better organizer than the other way around, just because it's just a constant reminder why we struggle and why we do what we do.
Agua? Oh, gracias, papa. Gracias.
One day when we're no longer here and he'll be here and maybe his children, they'll have a better life than what we had and what our parents had, and etc. So we're fighting for the next 7 generations, and he's next up. So this little guy's probably been to more protests already than most adults.
Why the Home Depot? There have been documented kidnappings on their premises at 14 of the 15 stores. There was a kidnapper inside of the store chasing one of our brothers. They thought they were going to get away with it, but are we going to let them do that? We are officially telling the people of Los Angeles and everywhere else, do not spend a single penny at the Home Depot. Boycott! Boycott! Boycott!
Unión del Barrio is a militant organization. We think that we have to be to defend our people.
You don't know where your manager is?
They're trying to
Not
control
against you,
this.
don't take it personally.
And I am absolutely determined and committed to making sure that this grows to the point where it's a national movement where people everywhere are defending themselves.
Keep an eye out. If you see something suspicious, please call. Let us know so we can go and back them up, all right? Thank you.
You seeing anything?
These people are fascist, and so we have to expect them to act like fascists. And to us, we're revolutionaries.
Yes!
We're the antidote to a fascist.
Yes! That's the only antidote. This is the thing, right? If you call yourself this fucking moron, someone recently said, "I don't think you're anti-fascist" to me, which is like, by definition, the only thing that solves, the only opposing force to fascism is communism. Fascists exist as a response to communism. That's the only way you can win. The only way you can beat reactionaries is by being a revolutionary, right? And I really appreciate this guy and his organization for that. That's incredible work. I really wish that this was like a national level thing, or that like they joined up with like the DSA or something, or some other kind of like national left-wing organization that does this in every major city. It'd be amazing.
So if we could just post Rosecrans, be on the lookout.
It is impossible to do the amount of work necessary on your own. Even just 2 people can do a hell of a lot more than 2 individuals who are not working together.
Estamos haciendo vigilancia en este momento, patrullaje para en contra la migra. Hey, we're patrolling right now for ICE. If you see anything suspicious of ICE, we're just patrolling the neighborhood right now, okay? For ICE activity. And we're just patrolling the neighborhood right now, okay?
For 5 months straight, our communities have been organizing in our streets to identify the agents while they're in our hood. The majority come out after 8. White Charger. If I were to put a scale to it, I would say maybe 7 out of 10 stars on that one. Or maybe not stars. 7 out of 10 thumbs down.
This is this morning.
Nope, I'm not getting out of the car. Not getting out of the car, and I'm not opening the window. I don't want you to kidnap my neighbors, man.
We'll stop it there, but long story short, nothing happened. He was able to go. He did all the right things. Smart, lock those doors. He knew he had legally done nothing wrong. They, on the other hand, did violate the law. They didn't have a warrant, but they quickly tried to get into his private vehicle. The tactics have been changing, and so we have to be up to date. That's why we constantly change this presentation. What we're seeing now, snatch and grab. Somebody sitting at a bus stop, the lady selling tamales, the guy selling tacos. So for the coalition, it's been very frustrating to us.
Okay, comrade following black SUV, masked man. How many men inside?
It seems like there's two, one in the front and then there's someone in the back.
Let me see if I can get you some backup over there. And you're on the 110, right? Let me just quickly.
Okay, so as we know, today marks 30 days since the military assault on Los Angeles started. We're peaceful people, but we're not going to allow you all to kidnap us, to beat us, to brutalize us. We're not going to allow it. We will fight back.
This is the attitude that like the socialist left needs to have. I honestly think that the major downfall of like our current state of left-wing politics in this country is that we are not just, and by we, it's not really me. I'm not a white privileged person, right? Like, although I might look and talk like one, I'm not. I am very poor. I come from a very poor background. I am an immigrant. Like, it is, I just look like this. It's very unfair. And I just don't understand why the white left, that was weird, can't just ask the black and brown communities that are being specifically marginalized, targeted, scapegoated for leadership. The best organizers, the best activists that I've ever met have been people who are in this kind of stuff. People who organize for Palestine, people who organize against illegal immigration stuff. These are people who have like specific goals that they want to accomplish. And a lot of the time when you talk to these like white leftists that make up the majority of organizations like the DSA, it's like these vague notions or like abstract thinking, very little follow through on the stuff that is possible. And I just kind of feel like there needs to be a lot more outreach to specifically, honestly, the more I think about it, the older, like I'm thinking like 30 and up, of honestly maybe not even restricted by age at all, but like we need to be going to like the tias and the tios and the abuelitas and the equivalent of every minority, and we need to be talking to them and being like, hey, this group, what we're trying to make is here to address our concerns, because we know that we don't get represented properly in this country. We know that our rights don't get properly defended in this country. We know that in a lot of ways our rights are entirely dependent on what the white supremacist majority needs at the time, right? Like that's what our existence is in this country. And so I don't see a better way to actually make meaningful change than focusing on like the black and brown, the marginalized, working class, and kind of start to step away from being these like, I don't know. It's hard because those people really do not trust the people who call themselves the left, and it's really bad. It shows that they're not good at what they're doing, that we're not good at what we're doing, because frankly, like, I kind of have a foot in both worlds. Anyway.
Today's the first day of school. We are patrolling around different schools in the community. You know what? Take Jorge as well. We're patrolling, making sure none of the enemies are near us. So
it's quite the outfit.
We'll be around. October 1st is when they're going to release the money of the big, beautiful bill. So that's when we can anticipate a lot more activity here and everywhere.
If we've been fighting for more than 500 years on this land, what the hell makes you think we're going to quit now?
Unión del Barrio calls on our community to continue the resistance and to fight back. Patrol your neighborhood, barrio por barrio, cuadra por cuadra. Esta es nuestra tierra, esta es nuestra lucha. El pueblo unido jamás será vencido.
Who keeps us safe? We keep us safe. Who keeps us safe? We keep us
One thing that like I don't feel like gets talked enough about is that I do not think that the Department of Homeland Security is constitutional. It was created via the Patriot Act, which also is unconstitutional, right? I think that we all used to agree about this back during the Bush administration. Well, reasonable people, right? Who read the Constitution and then read the language of the bill of the Patriot Act, right? It just doesn't seem like something that was intended, when the framers of the government were trying to create restrictions of power, separations of powers, and limiting the powers of the executive. By giving the executive like a direct, unaccountable, like essentially like a military force, like that's like a flagrant violation of everything. The whole point of the separation of powers is that the president, right, the commander-in-chief, has to seek approval from the Congress that is the democratic, like the true democratic body of the federal government, right? Because ostensibly these are people who represent their constituents and would represent their constituents' opinion on something like going to war, right? Ostensibly, that's how it's supposed to work. But whenever you are creating these special groups that are not you don't have to ask Congress because we're experiencing this quote-unquote terror that's happening, these terror attacks that are happening, which up until 9/11 were mostly committed by white supremacists who often had ties to the military. Suddenly these guys that we claim are from somewhere like Iraq or Afghanistan, these actually mostly like what are they, like people from Dubai or something, or Qatar? No, people from Dubai. And it just literally seems like, to me, like 9/11 was this incredible rug pull in which like the Constitution doesn't matter anymore. They, by creating this the Department of Homeland Security, they're not accountable to it. They're not held to it anymore. It exists outside of the regular checks and balances. And so when Trump is using ICE in this way, it lends itself, like, to me, it makes me think that there's somebody in there who believes in the power of the unitary executive, which I think is what the theory is called, and it is something that Bill Barr also believed in, I believe, which is the idea that like the president should have more power, which is crazy because like the whole point was that we did not want to have a king. We didn't want to have an incredibly powerful executive, right? That's what we did not want when we wrote the Constitution. These founders, that was the intention. That's like this designing principle of the fucking document. And then you have these guys that are like, yep, gonna completely like destroy the meaning of this document and just violate it. And end the democratic functions of this country. Pretty cool.
Bad as some of the horror shows that you've heard about for years.
Oh man, we missed the start of this.
Horror shows too. Okay.
Google ruling today that you posted on Truth Social about the European fining Google.
So Google is a great company. Yeah, Google is a great company, American company. Apple is a great American company, and so many others. And the European Union, I don't know why they do it, but they have been fining them numbers that have been astronomical. More so before I got here. But Apple paid $17 billion a fine in the last year. Apple, $17 billion on a case that a lot of people think they weren't guilty of. And no, I'm going to be speaking to the European Union, but it's not fair. Google just got fined $3.5 billion, and they've already paid $13 billion. They're up to $16.5 billion. And people say there was nothing wrong with what they did. It's almost a source of income to run Europe. It's become a source of income, and many other companies too, mostly tech companies, but we can't let that happen.
What are you seeking from the Europeans and by when?
Like, Europe has like what we would consider realistically like minor like the basic protections from like these like what end up being just massive data brokers. Europe is trying, right, because like Europeans actually get to have rights in this world, so they've tried to curb some of the abuses of these data brokers like Google, and it's honestly crazy that Trump is trying to defend them. Because it's like stuff that anybody can agree with, right? Like just like violating people's privacy, like overcharging people, going against net neutrality, like stuff that is like objectively like nonpartisanly bad. He's going to make partisan. He's creating a partisan stance on things like that. And I think it's bad strategy. And I also am really excited to see all of these pro Google, pro Apple right wingers after this. This is going to be interesting.
Said that they were taxed by the European Union. It's interesting. They weren't complaining about, in that regard, China. They weren't complaining about other places.
China?
It's the European Union, and they have. Apple was again forced to pay $17 billion last year.
That's like nothing to Apple.
So I think we're going to change that around. It's just not fair. We don't want that to happen to our companies. And you know, if somebody does that, we should be doing it to them. They got to pay, let them pay us. But you just can't do that to our companies. Yes.
He's got it right.
It wasn't hard, really. I mean, look, it's got the weather. We're in December, so it's, you know, cold in some places, and that's beautiful too. Cold weather's nice. It's all nice, you know, depending on the city. But no, Miami really wanted it. The mayor really wanted it. The people down there really wanted it. You might just address that for a second, Mr. Mayor.
Yeah, as I said, I mean, a conference of this kind does two things. Number one is it puts us on the global map with the great global cities, and I think that's something that we've been trying to achieve for a generation. And I think number two, it's a tremendous boom for your economy. I mean, as the president knows, he has, you know, multiple hospitality assets, and the working people of Miami, the small business owners, are going to benefit tremendously from the economic impact of a conference like this in our city. So it's an image thing, but it's also benefiting working people in our community.
Do you think Xi and Putin will attend the G20 there, man?
That's an interesting question. I'd love them to if they want to. I mean, they can, you know, as observers. They'd be observers. So I'm not sure they want to be an observer. But if they want to, we can certainly talk.
I know he doesn't smoke, but he looks like he smells like piss and cigarettes because he's like so old.
Well, I think we have to be very careful. Look, you have some vaccines that are so amazing. The polio vaccine, I happen to think, is amazing.
Not
a lot of people think that
health secretary doesn't.
COVID is amazing. You know, there are many people that believe strongly in that. But you have some vaccines that are so incredible. And I think you have to be very careful when you say that some people don't have to be vaccinated. It's a very, you know, it's a very tough position. So I'd give you an answer. I'll give you a feeling, but just initially I heard about it yesterday, and it's a tough stance. Look, you have vaccines that work. They just pure and simple work. They're not controversial.
What?
And I think those vaccines should be used. Otherwise,
What?
going to catch it.
He's like, RFK's too fucking crazy for me. Like, shut that down. And he's saying you. Are you kidding me? What the hell's happening? Really?
When you say the upcoming tax bill, because when you have an upcoming, we just passed the biggest tax cut in the history of our country, so there's nothing upcoming.
There's nothing
something that
upcoming.
we just passed.
Nothing is coming
So
ever
we-
again.
We passed the biggest tax cut in the history of our country for the middle class, for the worker, and that's the only bill that we're really talking about. We did a good job. It's very comprehensive, and I will say the Democrats, if you gave them every point that they wanted, every point that they've dreamt of all their lives, you wouldn't get one Democrat vote. They really are. They've become deranged, sick. It's crazy. If you gave them a list of the top 10 things that the Democrats wanted, and you put them in a bill to get passed, you wouldn't get one vote. It's the only thing they have. They stick together, but they're dying. I mean, they down to 16% approval rating, the lowest rating in history for either party.
Yeah.
And we have the highest rating we've ever had.
I don't think that's true.
Republicans have the highest rating we've ever had.
I don't think that's true.
Yeah, I have. I have. I'm not going to say it now, but yeah, I have. We're going to go into another place and straighten it out. And I will say this: I watched today. I didn't know that was continuing to go on, but Portland is unbelievable. What's going on in Portland? The destruction of the city. Well, I'm going to look at it now because I didn't know that was still going on. This has been going on for years.
Wait a minute.
So we'll be able to stop that very easily.
Wait a
We'll be
minute.
able to stop it. But you know that
We're
was
gonna do
not
some
on the
live
list,
fact checking.
Portland, but
So
when I watched
both are
television
down.
tonight, this has been going on. You wouldn't be standing if you were the.
But-
You would be, can you imagine what they're doing? They're walking in throwing smoke bombs into stores. These are paid terrorists.
Like, they're about the same, brother.
Agitators. These are professional. I watched that last night.
Of their
I gotta look this
own
up.
party.
These are paid agitators. They get paid money by radical left groups.
Fascinating.
Not radical right groups. Radical.
I appreciate that Democrats
And they
live
get
way
paid a
more
lot
in
of money.
reality
And
here.
you see it with the signs. You know, they all have perfect signs that are printed. They look as good as that sign. Those signs aren't made in basements. They're made in
Political independence. This was the important.
They cost a lot of money.
Ah.
These are paid agitators, and they're very dangerous for our country. And when we go there, if we go to Portland, we're going to wipe them
interesting
out.
here.
They're going to be gone, and they're going to be gone fast. They won't even stand the fight. They will not stay there. They've ruined that city. I have people that used to live in Portland. They've left. Most of them have left. But
You had people that used to live
what
in
they've
Portland?
done to that place is
What does that mean?
It's like living in hell. Yeah, go ahead.
It's like living in hell. He compares everything to hell. Everything is hell for Donald Trump. Okay, so this is fascinating to me. They asked both Democrats and Republicans if they thought that their party had the most ethical members of Congress, and Republicans have a worse opinion of their own party in most of these like areas. It's very strange. I don't understand like their what they think, like what their thought process is on that. Like how does that data add up? And I guess it's about the questions that they're asking probably. Maybe the population is strange. I don't know.
I'll always be friends, but I just don't like what he's doing at this particular moment. But India and the United States have a special relationship. There's nothing to worry about. We just have moments on occasion.
How are trade talks going with India, with other countries that you haven't reached a trade deal with?
They're going great. Other countries are doing great. We're doing great with all of them. We're upset with the European Union because of what's happening with not just Google, but with all of our big companies. hit him with these these unbelievable fines. $17 billion and $14 billion, and they use that money to run Europe. It's almost become like common. It's almost become a yearly occurrence, like it's a tax. And so it's very unfair. I want to thank you all very much, and we'll see you around. We're going to see you in Florida, but we'll see you a little bit before that, I suspect. Okay?
What are you having for dinner?
Thanks, guys.
Well, I'll be having something good here. I'll be at the White House.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, guys. Thank you. Thank you, guys. Thank you. Thanks, guys. Thank you, guys. Thank you. Thanks, guys. Keep moving. Thank you, guys. Thank you, press. Thanks, guys. Thank you.
Dang it, it's over. Yeah, there's like a lot of interesting stuff going on.
The US had to know that this was coming. After sending warships toward Venezuela, the US had to expect there would be some kind of response from the country. What that response would always be the question. Now we know. Venezuela prepares for war as President Nicolas Maduro has issued a threat toward US forces and the country's President Donald Trump. He won't take what's happening lying down, but what on earth is actually going to happen as tensions rise between the US and Venezuela? First, Maduro's warning. On September 1st, Newsweek shared comments that Maduro made in the wake of the US sending warships toward his country. Venezuela's president.
Hey everyone, as you know, I debunk
I'm gonna be right back, and then I'm
science
going to watch that
and
Venezuela video.
varieties. But there is a special sense of urgency when such characters are in positions of political power. And thus, by overwhelming popular request, we arrive at RFK. If you are someone who is not aware of what a massive fraud this guy is, or just how harmful he is to America and the world, please watch this video. Let's get started. Robert F. Kennedy Jr., son of Robert F. Kennedy Sr., the Attorney General and Senator who was assassinated in 1968, and nephew of John F. Kennedy, the 35th President of the United States who was assassinated in 1963, is an apple that has fallen quite far from the tree. In contrast with his uncle, who prioritized scientific advancement and integrated it into his policies, from funding scientific research and education all the way to the legendary Apollo missions and the space race, RFK holds a plethora of bafflingly regressive and objectively erroneous views on a variety of topics. He thinks vaccines cause autism, Wi-Fi fries your brain, measles outbreaks are no problem, and in fact, germs might not even be a thing in general. This would be business as usual if he were just some random jerk with a podcast. But in this nightmare of a universe, he's been appointed by President Trump to head the Department of Health and Human Services, or HHS, which oversees federal agencies like the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, or CDC, the Food and Drug Administration, or FDA, and the National Institutes of Health, or NIH. Since being appointed as head of HHS on February 13th of this year, it's been a non-stop train wreck that in certain timelines could end as disastrous as Stalin's backing of Trofim Lysenko, a dark chapter that I described in a previous video, which illustrates how dictatorial power destroys science when it forces science to adhere to a predefined political agenda. Nearly every single day since RFK's service began has been a circus sideshow of breathtaking ignorance and monolithic damage being dealt to the American people, which will have generational effects. While there will surely be more buffoonery to address as his term unfolds, let's cover what's happened so far. First, we can start with a brief overview of Bobby's background, career, and how the guy with the worm in his brain became the guy with the worm in his brain running America's health programs. More on the worm later if you aren't familiar with this little tidbit. After his father's assassination, Bobby dabbled in heroin and environmental activism before recovering from addiction and eventually becoming a lawyer. He was admitted to the New York bar in 1985 and began taking on environmental cases on behalf of a nonprofit organization called Hudson River Fishermen's Association, renamed to Riverkeeper in 1986. He won cases that forced cleanups of the Hudson River, punished polluters, and set precedent for environmental legal standards at the time. It seemed like he was doing great work at first, but in the year 2000, during a board meeting for Riverkeeper, he took a detour onto Batshit Boulevard when he pushed for hiring someone who had just served 3.5 years in federal prison for running an international wildlife smuggling operation, including smuggling eggs of endangered cockatoo birds from Australia. Some recurring themes that we will see throughout this piece are Bobby's association with grifters, playing fast and loose with scientific data, and being called out by his own family members. His own sister Rory nailed it in an interview. He can say some crazy shit, even though he might come across as an expert, remarking how thoroughly all of his interviews have to be fact-checked because he just says pretty much anything. Before the Senate hearing on his nomination to head of HHS, his cousin Caroline Kennedy sent a letter to Congress urging them to reject his nomination. She wrote in her letter that Bobby is a predator who preys on the desperation of parents and sick children using anti-vaccine rhetoric, and that both his father and uncle would be disgusted by his conduct. I'm sure she's just paid off by Big Pharma or something, right? Moving along, in 2015, he became the chair of Children's Health Defense, or CHD, a group that has been pumping out vaccine disinformation at Mach 5 speed for a long time. The organization's revenue, primarily consisting of individual donations, grew from $13,000 in 2014 to $470,000 in 2015 when Bobby joined the board, and ramped up unimaginably during the COVID-19 pandemic, reaching $6.8 million in 2020, $15 million in 2021, and a peak of $23.5 million in 2022. Hot damn, who knew lying could be so profitable? In 2023, revenue dropped to $16 million,
What Professor
coinciding
Dave's
with
saying.
Bobby's leaving for his presidential campaign, demonstrating how influential he is in positions of power. While running for president, he spread his gospel to millions
Oh,
of people
that's how much
on
money he
platforms
made?
like the Joe Rogan
Holy
Experience.
fuck, okay.
Since
The US had
Sorry.
to know that this was coming. After sending warships toward Venezuela, the US had to expect there would be some kind of response from the country.
You'd think,
What the
right?
response would always be the question. Now we know. Venezuela prepares for war as President Nicolas Maduro has issued a threat toward US forces and the country's President Donald Trump. He won't take what's happening lying down, but what on earth is actually going to happen as tensions rise between the US and Venezuela? First, Maduro's warning.
Venezuela.
On September 1st, Newsweek shared comments that Maduro made in the wake of the US sending warships toward his country. Venezuela's president said that he was fully prepared to declare a republic in arms if US forces ever dared to touch down on his country's territory or attack any region of the country from the sea. This is a case of being prepared for anything, Maduro added. In the face of this maximum military pressure, we have declared maximum preparedness for the defense of Venezuela. Maduro also told Trump exactly what he thought of what the US is doing. He called the deployment of American forces an extravagant, unjustifiable, immoral, and absolutely criminal and bloody threat. He's not wrong. At least not from the perspective of the US attempting to deliver a threat to Venezuela's hierarchy. And Maduro isn't the only member of that hierarchy who is up in arms about the US sending warships into nearby waters. The country's defense minister, Vladimir Padrino Lopez, has also issued a warning, telling the US that it shouldn't dare to set foot on Venezuelan territory, else there will be reprisals. Lopez added that any such action by the US would be considered an aggression against all of Latin America and the Caribbean, the Global Times reported on August 22nd. The message is clear. Venezuela is ready for a fight, and if Lopez's comments are anything to go by, it's already trying to create an us versus them mentality in Latin America. This isn't just a threat to Venezuela, he appears to be saying. If Latin America and the Caribbean as collectives allow the US to get away with this today, who knows what it could be capable of doing tomorrow?
I just wanna really commend this how clear-headed this reporting is compared to the kind of stuff that you're gonna see out of like the mainstream, like the main media companies. From even like when you talk about like the main ones that will do reporting in Mexico. Sorry, I'm so Mexico focused. I'm Mexican, so I'm very Mexico focused. But the point of this thing is not just Mexico. So we'll try to like, I'll try to like not just think from a Mexican perspective. But from a Mexican perspective, the this coinciding with Claudia Sheinbaum's like declarations that Mexican sovereignty will not be violated by the United States. leads me to believe that like what he's saying might be more accurate than I even thought of, because I know that like Americans have a really hard time with this, but like internationally the image is not good. And it's probably really bad amongst like the actual like working class and poor of the world, right? Like they probably don't really like the same kind of things that you do. They probably don't care about the same kind of things that you do. You know what I mean? And so I don't know if those people, I suspect that a lot of the people in Latin America would have a lot of fervor to defend their nations and would have a lot of like a sense of righteousness in doing so, in waging a defensive war against the United States. I think that this would be incredibly destructive to the United States. And the thing is that like based on like what I just feel as like someone who lives in the United States and is like an American but also has this identity as a Mexican person, I don't see like a lot of crazy support for the United States amongst like younger generations. My generation was probably, I'm about 30. I'm 31. So people about my age were kind of really starting to fall off on their opinion of the military, and it kind of started to become more concentrated on the right. People in like you know what I mean, like people in the urban areas and stuff like these are people who are educated enough to be really suspicious and weary of the military, essentially. And because like a lot of the time the way that American patriotism functions, the idea is that you support the military. I don't know, it's bizarre. You know, in Mexico we're proud of our chocolate, we're proud of our coffee, we're proud of our like long history of arts and architecture and all of these things. We're proud of these new inventions that Clara Sheinbaum has been talking about in her first report, right? That's the kind of stuff that we're proud of there. But here in the U.S., like the pride comes from murdering people, like masses of people on foreign shores for plunder and profit, right? Truly an incredible place.
But so far, this is all just words. It's one thing to claim that you're ready to put your country on a defensive footing. It's quite another to actually do it. However, in this particular instance, it looks like Maduro is ready to put his money where his mouth is. On August 27th, just days before he made his comments, CBS News reported that Venezuela had dispatched its own warships, along with drones, to patrol its coastline in response to the US dispatching a naval force to do the same. On top of that, the last week of August saw Maduro deploy 15,000 soldiers to the border Venezuela shares with Colombia. On the surface, that doesn't seem to have anything to do with the US. It's only when you discover that those troops are being sent to the border to tackle drug trafficking and the connection becomes clear. The flow of drugs from Venezuela into the US is part of the reason this entire situation is ignited in the first place, meaning Maduro's move may have been an attempt to placate Trump before everything went south. We'll get back to the drug issue in a moment. Returning to Maduro's naval and drone deployment, military commentator Preston Stewart made some interesting points about what this deployment actually looks like. He mentions the 15,000 troops in passing, but most of his focus is on the drones Venezuela is using. These drones present more of a threat than you may realize, and it's because Venezuela has ties to some very dangerous countries. Stewart discusses the mentions Lopez made of these drones, stating, "And something we have to keep in mind when he says that it's not the short-range quadcopter-type drones, although Venezuela likely utilize those as well, but the longer-range munitions. What munitions are those? Iranian Shahids, or at least Shahid-style drone. There are close ties between Venezuela, or the Venezuelan regime right now under Maduro, and Iran, Russia, even China," Stewart highlights. Those ties change everything. Venezuela having access to Shahid-type drones means that its coastal deployment is more than just a limp response to a far stronger US naval force. These types of drones have the range needed to target US warships, even those sailing in international waters far off Venezuela's direct coast. There is a legitimate risk to US forces in play here. And that brings us to how the US and Venezuela even got here in the first place. We mentioned earlier that Maduro's comments came in the wake of the US choosing to deploy several naval assets to the waters near Venezuela. This deployment isn't a small force. It's certainly not just one ship sailing near the coast presenting a weak threat to Venezuela. Stewart quotes Maduro as claiming that what Venezuela is now experiencing is the greatest threat that has been seen on our continent in the last 100 years. According to Venezuela's president, the US has sent 8 warships loaded with a combined total of 1,200 missiles, along with a submarine, into the waters around Venezuela. That may be an overestimate, Stewart says. However, it's difficult to see what he means given that we know that Maduro is right on the money when it comes to the number of ships and submarines the US has deployed. Newsweek provides the details, reporting that the US has indeed sent a small fleet of warships. Among them is the USS Newport News, which is a fast attack submarine that runs on nuclear power. This is likely the sub that Maduro refers to in his claims. Above the waves, the US force includes a guided missile cruiser named the USS Lake Erie, a trio of Arleigh Burke-class destroyers, the USS Sampson, the USS Gravely, and the USS Jason Dunham, and a littoral combat ship named the USS Minneapolis-St. Paul. Oh, and the US wants to create the impression that it's prepared to launch a land assault. That's why it's also sent the USS Iwo Jima, USS Fort Lauderdale, and USS San Antonio, all of which are amphibious assault ships. These ships are used specifically to carry out landing operations. Perhaps the overestimation lies in the number of missiles Maduro claims. Stewart says the real number is far lower than 1,200. He says the US has sent 4 guided missile destroyers, each capable of carrying 32 Tomahawk land attack missiles, along with a submarine that has 12 missiles. That creates a total of about 140,
I am
not 1,200.
in
though it
quite
is
a bit
still
of shock
distinct attacking threat.
with how much
Even worse
movement
for
they're
Venezuela,
making.
this many ships means a lot of US military personnel are sailing
could
off
be
the
from
country's
fucking
coast.
Mexico,
That accounts
too.
for roughly 4,500 personnel, including
But-
over 2,000 Marines, to waters near Venezuela in an attempt to target drug cartels, Newsweek said on September 1st. There's also a possibility that the US deployment could grow larger. Newsweek
I
says
just
the
don't know
Associated Press
who they're
reports that 3
fooling.
amphibious
Like,
assault
this is
ships were
not
into the region
normal
at some point during this
at
month.
all.
It isn't clear if this refers to the 3 vessels
The idea that
Newsweek says
they're
are already there, or another 3 en route to join them. Regardless, this is a sizable force, and one that appears to have been created with the express purpose of presenting
I don't really know, you know, if voting for Kamala Harris would have prevented any of this.
or on land by sending Marines to
But
assault
I
via
really
amphibious
am
boats. The only
just
thing missing
so
from this
incredibly
equation is an
like
aircraft
beyond
carrier, which would give the US the full
concerned
trifecta of
that
land,
this is
sea,
going to
and
lead to
aerial threat
violence
potential. One thing is for certain, this isn't some
in the
minor
next
spat.
within the
It's a
next
full-blown
decade, and
deployment,
like
and the US seems to be taking it very seriously.
I want to go to
Maduro
medical
has
school,
responded in
bro.
kind
Like
with
I
threats
don't
against
want there to
country
be a
on war footing,
war
meaning that what we're now seeing off the
between my
Venezuelan
home
coast is
country
a
and my
powder keg.
adopted country. That is not what I want to happen when I'm trying to learn how to take care of little unborn babies. And it's not about me, obviously. There would be a lot of people that died. But it's like incredibly fucked up that we're getting so close to something happening in this region. I do not know how realistic any of this is. I do not know if it's so insane. See, the thing is that my brother-in-law is a Green Beret, and he told me that amongst people at that level of operations, that they've been talking about the invasion of Mexico for a while. Like it sounds like it sounds like as far as like getting the guys on board, I think that's been there. The thing is that like even if I really felt taken care of by the United States, and like I felt like it was a place that really exemplified what it tried to or said it did, it still wouldn't be hard to choose a side because there's like a morally correct, factually correct side here. The idea that like it's okay to completely disrupt an entire sovereign nation because of your own mistakes, essentially, because of your own inability to control your own rogue fucking like highly trained special forces, because you weren't able to keep the CIA under wraps, right? Like the entire existence of these like drug networks, the entire function of these drug networks is to create off the books money for these intelligence agencies, etc., to function and to do the black site, the black ops stuff that U.S. citizens aren't supposed to know about, that Congress isn't supposed to know about. You know, it was recently reported that they sent they were trying to infiltrate North Korea. You know, I don't remember if it was berets, but it was like someone at that like level of operational capability, right? Someone who functions under JSOC, who were sent in to North Korea, and there was like some kind of a panic as they were entering. They were spotted, I believe, by like a commercial vessel, and I'll look it up for us to look at more in a second. But they just like killed these people and left. Like these are international, like this is like this is at the level of an international incident. The only reason something didn't happen right away is because it's North Korea, who is like a pariah internationally. But like, and maybe places like Venezuela are too, man. But it's really concerning, the direction we're heading. I'm a Latino, man.
A standoff is on the verge of occurring, and the only logical question anybody can ask from here is also the simplest.
White supremacy made me embrace my Latino identity. It wasn't because I chose it necessarily, but when you grow up and you're like ostracized for your race or associated with like other members of your race who are like caricatures, essentially like non-existent people who they've seen on television, and people who have just incredibly cartoonish and racist conceptions of you treat you pretty differently. And it was clear to me from a young age, growing up in a small town, that I wasn't white, that I wasn't on the team. At the end of the day, I wasn't, because at the end of the day, when I disagreed, when I was different, the racism came pretty soon after. So in a situation like this, like what are people, like what am I supposed to do? What are people who haven't really thought about it ever before supposed to do? Who are like, oh fuck, but like that's where I'm from. I know I live here, but I'm also like not treated super well by the government here, and then that's where I'm from. How am I gonna, do anything besides try to protect where I'm from? This just seems like such a terrible calculation. There's like such a massive percentage of Americans that are Mexican or Mexican American or identify that way or have dual citizenships or are just straight up undocumented Mexican citizens. Like there's a lot of those. And then there's also a lot of Latinos in the same vein. And there are groups within that are incredibly loyal to the United States and very patriotic towards the United States. That's true. Absolutely. But I don't think it's a majority. And I think that when your motivation is to defend yourself, your identity, your home, you probably fight a bit harder than people who are just being paid or getting a GI Bill, right? It just feels like if this goes through, it's going to be a lot of suffering, and it's going to end with the destruction of the United States and as we know it. I don't think that Latin America will cease to exist in a recognizable form. Like I think that it's just much too robust to be able to, like, it'll be able to resist, and the national identities will grow stronger, the regional identity will grow stronger, and the United States will enter a war of attrition, essentially, where because it has all these resources, it might be able to try to fight off longer. But as it does, the international community will get increasingly concerned. The money will start to run out. Domestic issues will take place. And I think the U.S. will collapse. I don't see how it could survive going to war with basically all of our southern neighbors.
Why is the U.S. doing all of this? As simple as the question is, the answer is multifaceted and fairly complicated. The first thing to understand is that the US and Venezuela's leaders haven't seen eye to eye for years, to the point where the US has placed a bounty on Maduro's head. Maduro is a wanted man under the US Department of State's
It's
or DOS's
ridiculous.
narcotics reward program.
Imagine if someone did that to Trump. Imagine if Iran did that to Trump.
The DOS points out that Maduro became president following the death of former Venezuelan leader Hugo Chavez, and he later won a presidential election in 2018 to make the position official. There's an element of sarcasm to the word won here, as there is enough contention surrounding the election that the US, along with...
It's really hard to say that he didn't win the first election. Maduro was popular because he was chosen by Chavez as his successor. That's why he won the election. It's basically believed. But once, I mean, he wasn't charismatic or very likable or whatever, and so it's believed that afterwards he had to fudge the elections because, I mean, he wanted to continue whatever he thought project he was continuing. I honestly don't know what the deal is with Maduro. He seems very confused. I don't think he doesn't appear to be malicious to me. I can't imagine what benefits you get with being the fucking president of Venezuela.
The other countries has refused to recognize Maduro as Venezuela's head of state.
Hmm.
To these countries, Maduro is a president in his mind only. Things haven't gotten any better for the relationship between the US and Maduro since 2018. In August 2024, Maduro again supposedly won a presidential election, granting him his third term in office. And once again, the US refused to recognize the legitimacy of that election. It was joined by 10 Latin American countries, The Guardian reported at the time, with those countries joining the US in calling for an impartial and independent audit of the vote that placed Maduro in power. There's also concern about what Maduro did in the immediate aftermath of the election, as activists claim that he detained thousands of people and killed more than 20 others who had opposed him in the past. Chile's President Gabriel Boric summed up the sentiment in a post-election statement. "We are dealing with a dictatorship that falsifies elections," Boric said. To some, this would be reason enough for what's happening off the Venezuelan coast in September 2025. However, the US opinion of Maduro is nothing new. It's been well over a decade since he first came to power, and this is the first time that the US has deployed its military in such a way to stand against Venezuela. Something else is going on. And if you are paying attention to what we said about the bounty on Maduro's head earlier, you'll know exactly why the US is claiming that its warship deployment is necessary: drugs. According to the recently appointed US Naval Chief of Operations, Admiral Daryl Caudle, the US ships heading into South American waters are being deployed to support Venezuelan operations and missions that involve drug cartels operating in the country. That statement is broad enough to cover just about anything that the US decides to do with these ships, and that's by design. Caudle added that the military's goals with this deployment are classified, PBS reported on August 29th. The same outlet quotes the White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt as also claiming that drugs are the reason why there are US warships off the Venezuelan coast. She told reporters that the president is prepared to use every element of American power to stop drugs flooding into our country and to bring those responsible to justice. It also shouldn't escape notice that President Trump has designated several groups that may have ties in Venezuela, including 6 of Mexico's cartels and El Salvador's MS-13, as foreign terrorist organizations. Inside Venezuela itself, the group known as Tren de Aragua carries this same designation. The foreign terrorist label could be used as a justification should the US choose to exert military force against these groups. The flow of drugs through Venezuela and into the US is certainly a problem. As far back as April 2019, CNN was claiming that corruption running to the core of the Venezuelan government had essentially created a cocaine superhighway from the country and into the US. CNN said that a months-long investigation it conducted at the time found that cocaine was flowing from neighboring Colombia into Venezuela at record rates. Consequently, drug flights from Venezuela were almost daily in 2019, which is a stark increase from the 2 per week recorded in 2017. It seems that the drug problem hasn't gotten much better since. Publicly, at least, the US is very keen for the rest of the world to know that it's using its warships to curtail this drug problem. But is that really the case? According to a September 2nd report by The Independent, perhaps not. It says that some experts are disputing the reasoning of tackling drugs that the US claims is behind its naval deployment. One of those experts, Florida International University political analyst Imdet Unar, says that the size of the force doesn't match the reason given. The build-up is a sizable force for what's officially a counter-narcotics mission, much more than you'd normally expect for that role, Unar says. The posture sits in this ambiguous middle ground, Enough firepower to keep Maduro guessing, but not so much that it commits the US to a full occupation.
This is pretty
CNN adds that the US hasn't
spooky.
presented any conclusive evidence that proves Maduro's alleged role in international drug trafficking. It spoke to Venezuelan Congresswoman Blanca Eckhout, who said, for there to be a drug cartel, either you produce the drugs, you process it, or you traffic it. And if there's no cultivation, production, or drug trafficking in Venezuela, how can there be a cartel? It's unsustainable. Is this the truth? Or are these precisely the types of words you'd expect to hear from a government that has long been accused of being illegitimate? It's difficult to say either way, but this lack of concrete evidence about Maduro's supposed drug connections adds another wrinkle to what's happening. If the US isn't countering the drug trade in Venezuela at the government level because that trade doesn't exist, then what is it doing? And what happens next? With the US sending warships and Venezuela preparing its ships and drones on its coastline, that is the biggest question on everybody's mind. And as the US seems to intend, we don't have any definitive answers. The only thing we know for certain right now is that there is no land incursion into Venezuela planned yet, at least according to PBS. It says that the US has yet to offer any signals that the thousands of personnel it's deployed, including 2,000 Marines, will be assaulting Venezuela's shores. But beyond that, everything else is up in the air. It's unclear what the US ships will actually do, if anything at all. What seems most likely is that all of this is saber-rattling from
It's
both sides
Cyrus.
of the aisle, and that Maduro's claims that he will declare
It's Cyrus,
a republic
everybody.
of arms is performative, as is the US naval deployment.
Say hello.
The lack of clarity about what the US ships are in South American waters
I don't know if you
do
can hear his
adds to
purr.
this likelihood,
He's quite the
though it is
purr.
also possible that no information is being
He's also
provided
quite the big
because
baby.
US
He loves to
doesn't
be
want
held.
give anything away before it starts launching attacks.
He'll
Show
come
of
to me
force seems to be the goal
throughout the
of
day and be
this.
like, "Dad,
At least that's according to Chatham House
I need you to pick me
senior
up."
research fellow Christopher Sabatini.
Not on the desk.
He tells The Guardian, no one in their right
You've
mind
broken my
knows that with
keyboard
4,000
before because you're so
can
fat.
invade a country
You're not
that's got
really fat. You're
mountains,
just a big
jungle,
cat.
and multiple urban centers. He's right. The amphibious force
I have
US
to
has
hold
may
him
be
over
larger
here
than
so he
expected,
doesn't get on my
but it's not
desk
big enough to
and
fight through
like
Venezuela's
fuck with
military,
everything.
even in coastal landings that are supposed to be targeting cartels. Stewart also highlights that many military experts believe that the U.S. naval
He's
deployment
like,
is more
"Stop
about keeping
it."
Maduro on edge than it is about trying to
Look,
tackle
look what he's gonna do with his little
Venezuela's
hands.
very few people
Do
see
it,
Marines
do
going
it,
ashore,
Cyrus. Come on.
Stewart notes, with it being
He's
more
very
likely
sweet. He
the
likes to
US
use
is
his
trying
little
to grapple
paws to
Maduro
like
with a
try to
show of
grab
force,
my face.
a naval group that could imply a future invasion
He's a
without
sweet
actually
boy.
launching one. But it's also possible that the U.S. may be ready to use
I
direct force. If it
fostered
does,
him last
Tomahawk
year. He was a
missiles
bottle
loaded into
baby.
its
His mom
warships
could
and
not
submarine will be the
feed
perfect
him.
weapons for an attack that requires no land
Or his
force.
brother Muril,
Stewart says
who
that
is
some
somewhere
experts
around
believe
here
that
also.
may be what the
You
US
saw
is
him
doing to
earlier. He
see
came by earlier.
targeted
Oh, she's
precision
sweet
strikes could be
boy.
about to take
Who's
place
this sweet
against multiple
boy?
targets.
And
These could include cocaine-producing laboratories or bases for
they
Colombian
couldn't. They
Marxist
had to be
guerrillas
bottle
involved in the
raised.
drug trade and operating from
So
Venezuela.
I got
If
pretty
that's the approach
attached,
the
and
US
my girlfriend
takes,
got pretty
Maduro
attached,
is
and we
making
just
it
had to
clear
keep
that
him.
he would consider it an act of war. with
And
his
now
most
they're
recent
so
statements.
big.
The response to Tomahawks flying into
Like,
Venezuela could be Shahid-style drones heading towards.
I don't even know
warships
how
on the
much.
Venezuelan
They were
coast.
like less
These
than
drones may not be the most
like.
effective countermeasure, but they would at least
They
show
were
Maduro's
definitely like less than
serious
12
developments
ounces. They were like
and
8
attempts
ounces
that
or
he's
something
ready
when
to
we
fight
got
back
him.
against the US.
And now he's like
Can't
15
eliminate the
pounds.
possibility that the tensions off the Venezuelan
What's with you
coast
being
are a
15
precursor
pounds? What's up with that, huh?
The US just may be preparing
He kind of
to
warned
oust
me as a
Maduro.
kitten. I
After
don't
all,
know. I don't know
Marines and
how, but
amphibious
I got the
assault ships
impression
suggest
that he was going to be
landings are
big.
being considered. And according to a Wall Street Journal opinion piece, the US might be doing a good thing, at least from its own perspective, if it goes down this route. Toppling Mr. Maduro is a worthy goal, the journal says. He lost last year's president.
This is why you can't trust the Wall Street Journal, right? Like if you're young, if you're new to politics and you're wondering where do I want to read people's opinions, and actually you probably should read the Wall Street Journal, frankly, and you probably should read these opinions, but you should know that these people's goals are inverse to those of the working class and are ultimately detrimental to the majority of people. And unless you are also someone who is bought into capital, right, has some kind of capital control, capital that you have control over, it's going to affect you negatively as well, right? Like this is... so the Wall Street Journal you can think of as a publication that is for wealthier people whose opinions are going to be a little bit more what you would call, nowadays you call it like conservative, right? But like really, I mean, like, I don't know, it's like the same thing. It's like expansionism, it's imperialism, and both the Republicans and the Democrats are happy to do that. They both like money, they both like power, they both like control. So It's important to realize that, and important to keep that in mind whenever you're trying to make like your political opinions and try to find out who really represents you, because who's this really gonna help? Is this really gonna stop the flow of drugs into the country? Is this really gonna do all of this stuff? Because like, it seems like at least last time we invaded a place a place with drugs, we turned it into a narco state, a real one, and exported that drug or imported that drug into the United States and got a lot of people addicted to it because it was so incredibly cheap and plentiful. It's this isn't good.
Election to opposition candidate Edmundo Gonzalez by 70% to 30%. And today, even greater numbers of Venezuelans want the dictator gone. He's running a criminal organization out of Caracas that traffics in humans, drugs, and weapons. His closest allies are Russia, Cuba, China, and Iran. All good points. Maduro is a man that many inside Venezuela hate, as well as somebody who has close ties to several of America's traditional enemies, the journal. His regime has also been responsible for almost 8 million of his country's people fleeing their country. A humanitarian invasion designed to displace Maduro and bring democracy to Venezuela has an outside chance of happening, even if that chance is minuscule. For now, we just don't know. The US is playing mind games with Maduro, and his response will tell America a lot about where Venezuela's president stands. He at least says that he's ready to fight, and he has sent ships and drones to his country's coast to prove it. Whether he'll be fighting for his own life or the drug operations in his country, or even fighting at all, remains to be seen. If tensions erupt into full-blown fighting, they threaten to reshape South American stability for months, if not years. We covered Venezuela launching warships as a response to the US and what it might mean in a recent video. Check out that video to dig deeper into this topic, and remember to subscribe to the Military Show for more coverage of the emerging crisis in South American waters. And thank you as always for watching.
With the United States now having killed 11 Venezuelans, albeit alleged members of a cartel, one wonders if we might soon be adding another state to the board. And, of course, that will have spillover effects to the conflict on the minds of everyone. This is the USS Lake Erie. Is she named for the most beautiful lake in the world? Perhaps. But I can tell you with more confidence that she is one of at least 9 military vessels currently deployed toward Venezuela. Their mission? Good question. Officially, the group is deployed to the region to address drug exports, but the size and the shape of the U.S. forces in the region indicate otherwise, even as the first shots of whatever type of conflict that we are witnessing
Meru's here
have
now.
targeted cartel operations.
Wonderful. We love our Meru.
Today, we will discuss what
Hi,
exactly
Meme.
is parked outside of Venezuela.
What's up, buddy?
Some alternative theories about the operation, including preventing potential expansion of Russian influence, halting the production of Venezuelan drones, which might give us some flashbacks to another recent U.S. operation, the situation with Guyana and its oil industry, and to assist with a potential domestic rebellion, which I think is the most
What you doing?
important to cover.
What you doing? You want me to
though
put you
it
down?
might be all of the above that
You
is
ready to be
driving
done?
the U.S.
There you go.
decision. Then we will conclude with how serious movement in Venezuela might affect the broader conflict map. But let's start things off with what the United States is actually doing, which apparently is to come here. The question itself is interesting, because mainstream news outlets have hardly covered this story. Indeed, Venezuela flew under the radar until Trump announced the move of U.S. Space Command to Alabama, and then offhand volunteered that the United States had fired the first shots of the operation. That created some buzz, which then exploded when Trump released this video on Truth Social. To be fair to the mainstream press, Washington was not exactly shouting out the mission from the rooftops before the kinetic action began. The most that you might have heard about it was a question or two during a White House press briefing. I suppose that is a testament to how much else is going on
Oh my
in
God.
the world right now. and
Meru, what are you doing over there, buddy?
media has to
That's
cover
not a
such
place for you, dude.
But the lack
That's
of
for
coverage
books.
from the media was a gamble. Washington had ordered a
What a
non-trivial
guy,
deployment,
man. What a guy.
and it will look bad in
I
retrospect.
love that
if
cat.
this
Where'd he
goes
go?
Beyond a one-off
He likes to sleep on my chest at
We'll
night.
see what
Maybe.
happens now that the chips are
And
down.
he doesn't like
Anyway,
to
the
be
United
locked
States
out of
has
the room.
moved at
Cyrus
least
will
9
deal,
vessels into the
but
region. One
maybe
cruiser,
will not. Oh, everyone's awake from their naps.
fast
My dog's
attack
awake from his
submarine,
nap now too. You
3
can't see him.
vessels from a Marine Air Ground
There he
task
is.
force,
There's Frank.
and 1 littoral combat
There's Frank.
ship.
Pardon the mess.
By the way,
I am reorganizing this
no
closet.
expense going through the DoD
Look at him.
photo archives
He's such
to
a good
ensure
boy.
that we had correct images
He's
of
such a
all of
good
the vessels.
boy. He's such a good
The
boy.
aforementioned Lake
Do you need to go potty?
the Samson,
Do you go potty? You go
Gravely,
outside? You go potty?
Jason Dunham, the Newport
You go potty?
News,
You go potty?
Iwo
What's
Jima,
up?
which we'll talk
What's
about
up?
again in
You
a
go
second,
potty? You go outside?
the
I'll
San
take you.
Antonio, the Fort Lauderdale, and the Minneapolis
He's so
St. Paul.
funny. He's
Then
so
there may
funny.
also be 1 or more
My dog is so
military
funny.
Sea Lift Command vessels, as well as 1 or more U.S. Coast Guard cutters. They do not exactly tell us everything. Regardless, remember that the stated purpose of this mission is to intercept drug shipments. Well, looking back at the deployment package, could these
There we
vessels
go.
do that? I mean, I guess.
It's taking a second
But
to
let
open
me
my
tell you
my
about the Iwo
stuff.
Jima for a
Now
moment.
that I've reset my computer,
I took a
remember
trip
I need
to Norfolk,
change
Virginia
some settings
recently.
around.
This was the view from my hotel room. When I stepped out on the balcony, I thought for a second that I was looking at an aircraft carrier. Ultimately, it was not. This is the Baton, which is the same class as the Iwo Jima. Point is, it is only 250 feet shorter than a real carrier. And even knowing the difference, looking at some photos from the top of the Iwo Jima, it is still easy to convince yourself that it is a traditional carrier. That seems like a bit of overkill when you are trying to catch the likes of these guys. Now, to be clear, they have started intercepting drug vessels, as we
Hey,
saw
what's
from
up?
the earlier
Cool.
video. But if that is all they...
Okay, I'm gonna take this guy to the bathroom for a second, and then I'm going to be right back, and we're gonna play some Battlefield for I don't know, like 40 minutes, and then I'll be done with the stream. I have to go get some groceries. My girlfriend signed us up for a cooperative that grows food, but we never do anything with the vegetables. Like, I'm always like, hey babe, like, what are we gonna do with these? How do we store these? And they always go bad. I might just have to tell her we have to stop. I really don't want to go pick them up. Okay. Let's go. Actually, I'm gonna play a little bit of music. Where did it go? Hmm. I expect this is not going to be very good. Let's get going here. Do we want to do Deja Vu? I really want the... I really want the M16. That's what I want. And so... I need something with grenade launcher. I just need 10 more kills with a grenade launcher. And I can get this M16. I've just been a completionist about the guns. Because what brought me back to playing Battlefield at all was the Battlefield 6 beta. It was really fun. And I was like, I miss that. I miss playing Battlefield. And this isn't quite right. But it is kind of close to Battlefield 3, kind of. Close enough to scratch my itch. In this state, I understand that when it started, when it first released, it was very different. And it was not fun and had like some stuff, you know. Wow. I didn't even realize I was gonna be a recon class guy. I meant to be this.
The enemy is taking losses, but they just keep coming.
Ooh, this is a good song. Who is this? This is good.
We now control just about every sector. Good work. Sector Alpha has been secured. We control Alpha.
Oh my god, I have 3 shots. Man, the balance. I like that in the future we just can't carry as many grenades. I might have to change my graphical settings at some point because it's I just reset it, so they're like probably maxed out, and that might not be ideal for streaming. We'll see how stable it is. So far, so good.
We're attacking a fire base in Sector Bravo.
Okay, once I find somebody, I'm just trying to hit him with the... Where is he?
Hostile infantry, this location.
There's no way. Where's everybody?
Red mark. Hostile vehicle there.
Dang it! Oh no, 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 no. I don't want this to be on. Do I? Yeah, we don't like pedophiles around here. So we're just gonna skip that one. I can't see. What's happening? Oh, they revived me. Oh no. No, there's another guy there.
Save someone else. Don't waste your time. I'm done.
What if I sent this to my girlfriend whenever I was trying to like instigate a sex night? Just every time.
Strength. Keep pounding them. We have Charlie. Sector Charlie secured.
There's a Latin dance club. I wonder if I should join that. I would like to learn how to dance. That might be a good outlet, actually. I need something. And I'm not really super interested right now. I know that there's like football signups, but like I don't really want to play Dutch football. I play basketball, but I don't know if signups are until the spring.
Sector Bravo. We have troops hitting an objective in Bravo.
For like intramural.
Enemy infantry. Enemy infantry.
I gotta say, I feel so much better now that like my ADHD has been acknowledged and treated. It's incredible. I feel so confident in myself now with my abilities because I've always like felt like something was holding me back, and now I'm like, oh, I'm not this like incompetent fool that I thought I was. I just had like a neurological disability, essentially, a developmental disability that was holding me back. This is why like medicine is so important. It's like this universal equalizer, right? Because like I was not able to contribute to society at the way that I can now when I wasn't medicated. I'm like so much more capable and have so much more energy and like confidence, and my like ability to like follow through on stuff is so much better. And it's literally just a little pill that I take every morning. Whoa, what happened out there, man? I guess the whole thing about this gate is that it's extreme weather events, right? Something about time travel? Not entirely sure. Man, where is everybody? There's one of my squad guys. There's another one of my squad guys. Okay, so I guess we're all headed the same direction at least. We're winning, I guess, pretty handedly, so maybe that's why everyone's just chill. I'm gonna go up there. GAT! It's called GAT. Isn't that like a outdated term? Dang it, he saw me.
Hey, we got a man down over here.
Oh, it's Lotto. She looks different. Didn't recognize her. That's a like a nice pro monogamy lyric.
Look out! Throwing a grenade.
I'm just like super focused on grenades right now. I just want to blow everybody up.
Grab this shit. Man down.
bad. I wonder how Ice Spice is gonna ruin it. Wait a minute, is this a different flow?
Sector Charlie is now under enemy control. What the fuck happened?
There's like one thing that like women who date men of color talk about. Well, particularly like men who date black women, white women who date black women, white women who date black men, gain like a lot of confidence in their bodies because in like our communities, voluptuousness is treasured and you know, it's something that is like desirable and it's seen as just as attractive as any other body type essentially. It's really interesting to me because like it's like with my girlfriend, like she's white and like I don't think she ever realized how like nice of a body she's had because like I don't think that like white people like are socialized really to think about it too much in outside of like any other kind of convention. But like I don't know. Like if I were to like describe her like in like kind of in like really crude terms, you know, it wouldn't be that different from describing like a lot of women that are considered incredibly beautiful by like popular culture. You know what I mean?
I got a visual on hostile infantry.
But because of like, well, for one, she was a brunette, right? So there's that. But, because she never really knew about her like features, she didn't really know how to accentuate them, and she had like a mother that was. I don't know why I'm talking about this actually.
Enemy vehicle identified. How copy? Enemy vehicle. Heads up. Hey, thanks. We got eyes on enemy infantry. Hey, don't worry about it. Grenade out.
I didn't expect there to be a whole bunch of guys there, but I should have. I also think I'm supposed to try to get a logistics ribbon. I'm not a big fan of Eminem. I don't know if that's offensive to anybody out there, but like I just don't. I think I enjoyed him when he was like a novelty. And I think that stuff I can go back and like nostalgically enjoy. But like, especially the stuff that was being popular when I was like in high school, like recovery and relapse and stuff. No thank you. That's not for me.
Hold on a second. Watch my back.
Oh, this is pretty good. Where's it? Offset.
I got some ammo over here. We now control Charlie. Sector Charlie is ours. Trouble right there. Hey, fix this stuff up. Huh? Right there.
Dang.
Wolf 2, you got dagger.
Oh, wow. What? Fascinating. My light, what happened? My light died. Oh, I have to just leave. I'm sure my pets would love an early dinner. I hadn't heard. I don't think I had heard this song because I wasn't super impressed with what I had heard of Jid's new album. But this is good.
Toe to the line, people.
I don't think I've gotten a single like more grenade kill. Oh, I got one. I need 10 more. Wait, great. Cool. Maybe I'll try to do this weekend. Just play a little bit of Battlefield. Try to like use a little bit of completionist stuff while I'm also trying to like improve on the reporting. I don't think I'm gonna be reporting on the weekends, and I'll just try to do a catch up on Monday. Kind of want to leave as much of my weekends as possible to aside maybe evenings for like a game stream to like study. Okay, well, again, my light battery died, and I don't know why, but the charger connection is like not stable or something. It keeps like stopping, so it's like not charging and not able to like just be powered through the charger. Kind of annoying. But anyway, thank you if you came by. Even if you didn't come by and you are watching from Facebook. From Facebook? You're not supposed to be watching this from Facebook. If you're watching this from Facebook, something's gone terribly wrong. But if you're watching it from YouTube, thank you for coming by and trying to, you know, give me a little chance at occupying some of your time. Follow and subscribe. Thank you.